Hi friends, it's Miss Christina. Welcome to Mad Science. Today I'm going to show you how to do a colorful melting ice experiment. So for this, you're going to have to do a little bit of prep work the day before because we want a big chunk of ice. So you don't want to use little ice cubes. That's not going to be big enough for us to work with. You want to make your own. So you can use a bowl or a container like this, and you can fill it up with water and put it in the freezer to make your own big block of ice. It helps if your container has a lid so that when you put it in the freezer, it doesn't tip over and spill everywhere. So that's why I use this takeout container. So I have my big chunk of ice. You will want some kind of a pan or baking dish like this that has tall sides on it because we're going to put that block of ice in there and melt it. And you don't want to get water everywhere. So this is what I'm using. In order to get our ice to melt, we need salt. And then in order to see different patterns and things in the ice, you want a couple different containers of water. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. So I just have these measuring cups with a little bit of water in there. And then we're going to add some food coloring to it. Preferably liquid. I haven't tried it with the gel, but liquid food coloring works the best. And then if you have a dropper, or this is like a liquid medication syringe, this is going to be useful when we're adding the water to our ice chunk. So I've got that. And that's really it. We're ready to go. So your ice will probably take overnight to form because it's such a big piece. So once you have that ready to go, then you can try your experiment. So because mine's ready, I'm going to take this. I'm going to put my block of ice in there. And it just pops right out. I had it sit out for about a minute or two, so that kind of melts the sides a little bit, so you don't have to try to crack it or struggle getting it out. So I have that right in there. I'm going to move it a little bit so you can see the whole thing. Okay. Now I'm going to prepare my water, my colored water. So I'm just going to do a couple different ones. You just need a little bit of food coloring. So I'm going to do like a drop of blue in this one. And let's do red in this one. And we'll do yellow in the last one. Okay. And I might want to stir it. I forgot to get a spoon, so I'm just going to take my little syringe and stir it up. So that you have a nice, just, colored water. Stir all of them. Okay. Perfect. So just so you see, just like that, kind of looks like Kool-Aid. And now you can add your salt. So you don't want to dump salt all over it. You want to maybe make some patterns. You can draw something with it. You can just sprinkle some, but don't dump a whole bunch of salt on top. So I'm going to, sorry, there's sirens outside. I'm going to just make kind of a zigzag sort of shape. And you can hear it popping. And if you watch carefully, you can see cracks forming. It's like it's alive. So now that you have a little bit of salt on there, you can take your colorful water. So I'm going to start with some blue. I'm just going to put it in my little syringe, and you can add it. And the color makes it a little bit easier to see what's happening because the salt is clear or white and the ice is clear. So giving it a little bit of color helps you get a better look at what's happening. So now I'm going to add a little bit of red. Let's see. Do you notice anything happening? Let's do a little bit of yellow. Let's go here. That one's pretty light. You can see the blue a lot better because it's darker. See what is happening. What if I tilt it? Do you see the color moving in there? Okay, can you see? I'm going to bring my camera a little bit closer. Okay. Can you see anything happening to the chunk of ice? Can you see some water from where it's melted? Let's try adding a little bit more salt. Just going to go right on top of where we put the salt before. I'm not sure if the camera microphone is picking this up, but you can hear it cracking, which is pretty cool. And let's try adding some more blue water, because I can see something happening. I'm going to have to turn my camera. But there's something interesting happening at the edges here. And if we get a little more color on there, you'll be able to see it better. Okay. Let's see if you can see. I might have to pick it up with my hands. But over here you can see it really well. Do you see those lines on the side where it's melted? Looks pretty cool. I've got that mostly on the sides here. Oh, there's some on this part too. Right there. See how it's not smooth anymore? It has like ridges in it from where the salt water has dripped down the sides. Let's try taking our syringe or our dropper and collecting some of the melted water that we have that has melted off into the pan. And let's see what happens if we add that. Looks like it's still just doing the same thing. What about adding a little more of our blue water? I think the blue one works the best. So can you see on the top here where that big piece of ice, or I'm sorry, where that big line of salt is, that it's kind of created like a crater. It dips down. So that has all melted, and now we've got all of this liquid in here. And let's take some of that in our dropper. And let's add that. So it's really melting where all of that salt is right there. Got a little bit over here as well. Let's get some more. Kind of add it around. Let's do a little bit of red. Get some more color in here. So you can see it's really creating these deep ridges on the sides where it's spilling down. So I'm going to turn it because there's some cool looking ones over on this side. If I just lift it up, you can see Whoop, so slippery. You might want to use gloves because the salt and the water can kind of irritate your fingers. Also, it's very cold. So that's pretty cool. You can keep adding salt and water and see how long it takes for this whole thing to melt down. And you can try using your water from your cups or the water that's got the salt in it and see if that makes a difference. So this melted water has got some salt in it because it dripped off of the chunk of ice that we have here and created a solution. So it's kind of like having your own little iceberg. So how does this work? Why does salt melt ice? Well, actually, the salt isn't really melting the ice. What the salt does is lower the freezing point of the water. So normally, solid plain water with nothing else in it will freeze at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But when water and salt are mixed to create a solution, it makes it so the water refreezes at a lower temperature. So that's why outside in winter, when it snows, the trucks go down the streets and they put salt down. So the salt is mixing with any water that's on the ground or the first snow that falls, and it creates this mixture of water and salt that makes it so when the temperature drops, that water and salt mixture does not turn to ice. Basically, it makes it so it needs to be even colder for that to freeze. So it makes it safer to walk on and to drive on because now instead of ice, you just have water and salt mixed together. So it's really kind of interesting. So our big chunk of ice is melting because it's warmer in here. It's way warmer than 32 degrees. But then when we put the salt on top, that melted water is mixing with the salt and making it so the melted water does not turn back into ice. So when we put our water on top of these parts that have salt on them, the water just runs off and it doesn't turn back into ice. So pretty interesting. That's something new that I learned. I always thought that salt just melted the ice, but really it's affecting the water and making it so it doesn't turn back into ice. It doesn't freeze again. So I hope you have fun trying this out. This would be something fun to do outside. It will melt a lot faster outside because it's going to be warmer. But it's cool to try with different colors, see if you can make patterns. You can try to draw something in there. So it's a little bit like an art experiment as well. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Bye.